Hey guys, it's Mrs. Norris, and you should have this handout. It was emailed to you, and I also went ahead and put it on Ngrade on the wiki. There's a Geometry Chapter 6 wiki that's ready for us to start the new year. So, Chapter 6, we've advanced from just triangles to now any polygon. And remember, Section 1, we talked about all the different variations. Well, for Section 2, we're going to jump into the next favorite shape of Mrs. Norris, which is a parallelogram. At the end of this video, you need to take the Ngrade quiz. There's just a few things you're going to fill in. This isn't a super long video. Okay, let's start by just recognizing some things about the parallelogram. First of all, whenever you see this little parallelogram, you'll see it a lot in the book, you'll see it on this handout. If you're reading it in a sentence, you have to read it as a parallelogram. Make sure if you're choosing to draw it that way, that you don't draw a rectangle, you draw the lines a little slanted. Okay, so this is a parallelogram right here. In this bigger parallelogram here, we first have these red and blue dotted lines. So these are just called diagonals. So the diagonal is connecting opposite corners or opposite vertices of a parallelogram. So the blue one and the red one are both diagonals. The next thing we need to define here, we need to first define what we call opposite angles. As you can see from this picture, and we'll talk about it in the chart down here, opposite angles in a parallelogram are congruent. So these two are opposite angles, and these two are opposite angles. You need to come up with whatever definition or wording works for you. And consecutive angles, consecutive means right next to each other, right? Like if you talk about consecutive numbers, they're the ones right next to each other. Consecutive angles are these two. They're the ones that if you were going around in a circle around the parallelogram, they would be right next to each other. Okay, moving down your handout. Hopefully you've been able to print this out. You didn't have to recopy it in your notebook. This chart is going to be filled in. I'm going to show you a PowerPoint for it in just a minute, but I want to explain some of the ways it's organized. So if you'll notice, the first two things about a parallelogram, once we're given a parallelogram, if that's what you're told is happening, if that's your if, then you can know several thens, okay? Several conclusions from this hypothesis. The first thing you know are two things about the sides of the parallelogram. Then you know two things about the angles of a parallelogram, and you'll notice in the bottom of your handout it says two things about the diagonals of a parallelogram. Okay? For the first five, we have theorem numbers and definition. It is important that you start to realize these or remember these. And the very last one is just one more little tidbit about diagonals, but we don't have a theorem number for it. Okay, so on your handout, these are going to go in the same order as the boxes in yours. The first two are relative to the sides, and your handout says if parallelogram, of course you have a symbol there, then both pairs of opposite sides are parallel, and that's what you're filling in the blank there. You can use the symbol or the word. These pictures here I don't want you to draw. Tomorrow we're going to fill in doing the cut and paste activity and try to match pictures to each of these theorems. The second one, what I want you to fill out is if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram. So if parallelogram, then the two pairs of opposite sides are both congruent. Go ahead and use the symbol for this. So the first one is parallel, second one is congruent. You'll notice our picture has congruent marks here. Again, don't want you to copy these down. We're going to do an activity with these tomorrow. The third theorem says if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the two pairs of opposite angles are, and you're going to fill in the blank, congruent. And if parallelogram, then the consecutive angles are not congruent, notice, supplementary. Okay, and you'll have to write this whole word out, supplementary. Notice in the picture that they're not congruent and that we put the little 180 there. And the last two, if parallelogram, then the diagonals bisect each other. Okay, in other words, they cut each other into two congruent parts. And the last one is if quadrilateral is parallelogram, then the diagonals form two congruent triangles. And you shouldn't have to write anything for that one because I've typed that whole one out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop here. You guys need to take an end-grade quiz. If you have to replay this video 5 times, replay it 5 times. The questions are going to come straight from this video. Make sure you answer those and have this handout printed and filled out, and we'll do the rest of the class examples tomorrow. Have a good day.